guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms. If you are new here, what you can expect from my channel is a lot of DIYs, thrift hauls, thrift flips, really a day in the life of a small business owner. If that is the type of channel that you do like, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification so every Monday and Friday when I do upload a video, you'll be notified. Now in today's video, I am stepping back from all things holiday and I am going to show you how I took one piece of Roycycled Decoupage paper and use it to flip 6 different projects. So I can't wait to hear what you guys all think at the end. In today's video, we are using the Roycycled paper called Farmhouse Project Blocks. I challenged myself to try to produce as many projects with this one piece of paper. For project 1, I've recently thrifted this round wood piece, and in the past I have sold quite a few of these with the glass domes. I had a few in my stash of glass domes, so my goal here was to transform the base. Anytime you're using any type of decoupage paper, you do want to start with a white base. So I am breaking out White Swan by DIY, and I am going to apply 2 coats of white paint to this. I'm going to let that dry very thoroughly in between coats, and then we're going to apply the decoupage paper. Now that the base is dry, I am laying out the decoupage paper, and this I thought was going to be perfect for this round. So I took my finger and I just rubbed around the edges to create it where I could see I needed to cut. And then I cut just outside of that round because anytime you're laying decoupage paper on, I mean, it's not going to be 100% perfect. So always leave a little bit of an overhang and you can sand that right off. My favorite medium to use to apply the Roycycled paper is liquid patina from DIY. The key here is to lay down a little bit of liquid patina, then put down your paper, smooth it out, and basically work in sections as you work your way down. This has been very successful for me, and it really eliminates a lot of the wrinkles and any problems like that. All of the products that I'm using in today's video you can find on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. Now that this is dry, I'm taking sandpaper and I'm going to rub my sandpaper in a downward motion and remove any of the overhang or excess decoupage paper. And this is the easiest way to do this, and it comes out looking perfect. After looking at the project, I determined I did not like the White Swan color. I decided I wanted to paint the base black. So I'm breaking out Black Velvet by DIY paint and applying 1 even coat to the entire piece. I think it just grounds the whole piece just a little bit better. Here is the piece. I love how with that glass dome, it looks just perfect. Now all I need to do is seal it with Big Top, and I'm applying 1 even coat to the entire piece. I'm going to let it dry and this piece will be finished. On to project 2, I thrifted this little mini cutting board from the Goodwill bins. I am marking where I need to cut out the paper. Like I said before, I always leave a little excess. And after I cut it out, I'm going to determine where the edges are and mark that with a pencil so I can paint underneath it white. I'm using my blue painter's tape and creating a nice straight edge for both of the lines, and that way I can paint this section white, and I'm doing 2 coats of white paint. I'm using White Swan from DIY, and I'm going to let that dry very thoroughly in between coats. Now that the white paint is dry, I'm starting to apply my DIY liquid patina. Just like I did with my last project, I'm working in sections. So I lay it down, then lay the paper and smooth it out, and that way it prevents all the wrinkles. Now that it's dry, I'm using my sandpaper and removing any of the excess paper. My vision here is I am using the crockery set of stamps from IOD, and I picked one that went along with the whole theme of the farmhouse. I am inking that up, and then I am going to stamp it right in the center of the board. At this point, the board was complete, but I thought it needed a finished look. I grabbed a spindle out of my stash and I cut it down to size. I then cut an L shape in the bottom so that it would fit right on the board. I painted that black velvet. I did wet distressing and then clear coated it with Big Top. To attach the spindle to the board where that L shape was, I just lined it up, used my brad nailer, and I put in 3 brad nails to hold it in place. For Project 3, I thrifted this piece this past weekend, and it never even made it into my hoard because when I started brainstorming how I was going to use this decoupage paper, it came right to mind. So I'm painting the top White Swan by DIY, and I'm applying 2 even coats. Now that it's dry, I'm laying out where I want this, and I'm using the DIY's liquid patina to apply it. And because there are lines on the top, I'm kind of using that to work to my benefit, and I'm lining that right up with that top line and then working in sections and making my way down. To match the top with that black and white look, I am painting the base Black Velvet by DIY, and I only am applying 1 even coat. DIY paint is heavily pigmented, so typically you only really need 1 coat, sometimes like a coat and a half, but with the black, the coverage is pretty darn amazing. I'm going to let this dry very thoroughly, and then we're going to come back and we are going to seal both the top and the bottom. Now I'm taking my sandpaper and removing the excess paper with that. I realized I had not painted all the way around, so I am applying 2 coats of paint around the rim of the entire piece. Anytime you're using DIY paint, you do need to seal it or it can be reactivated. I am using Big Top here, but you can seal it with any type of poly, wax, Big Top, but you definitely want to seal it so it won't be reactivated. For project 4, this actually has been in my stash for quite some time. I kept looking at it, and I think what was throwing me were the apples. I took the apples off right away, and I knew the handle I did not like either. So for starters, I am painting over these apples with a White Swan by DIY, and I am applying 2 coats to both sides. From here, I have decided I am removing that handle. So I am taking the screws out on each end, and I went into my stash of spindles and I found the perfect spindle to use. And what I do is I just line up that spindle handle right where the holes were for this handle, and I screw the screws right back in, and now I am loving the handle. Because I use the bottom portion of this decoupage paper on the round cheese box, I am using the top portion for this. And I am going to use headquarters for fertilizers on one side, and then I am going to use the business name on the other. Just like I had with the past projects, I did use liquid patina to apply the decoupage paper. One thing to note about liquid patina is that it also seals the DIY paint, such as the Big Top does. So I am actually applying it to the entire side to completely seal the White Swan and then attach the decoupage paper. At this point, the project could have been completed, but I did not like that wood tone, so I did break out the white wax from DIY, and I applied 1 even coat of white wax to the entire piece. I wiped it on, and then I took paper towel and wiped off the excess to give it almost a whitewashed appearance, and then now I finally feel like the project is complete. For project 5, I wanted to use this piece on the cutting board. And right away, I had this cutting board in my kitchen. I was going to keep it for myself, and then I thought this would be a perfect project for this. And then I realized the top portion was going to be still wood, and I just did not like the look of it. So I went into my stash of boards and I grabbed this old board out, and I was going to create my own cutting board. So for starters, we are painting the base of it white, just like we had in the past. And what that does is it really makes the entire decoupage paper pop. From here, I am using DIY's liquid patina again to lay this down. Now, the key here, or what I was trying to go for, was make that red stripe in the center of the board. And so I laid down my liquid patina and I try to eye it up the best I can to make that center stripe right in the center of the board. Just like I had with the rest of the projects, I work in sections and just work my way down and then just smooth out any of the wrinkles as I'm working my way down. I want to add a handle to my cutting board, so I did go and get a spindle and I painting it black velvet from DIY. I am going to let that dry, then wet distress it, and then seal it with Big Top, and then we're going to put the spindle on the board. Just like I had with the other pieces, I wanted to get rid of any of the excess paper, and I take my sandpaper and just in a downward motion, I remove any of that excess overhang. Now on the sides, if the white paint had come through or gone on the sides at all, I take my sandpaper and remove any of that as well. I want the board to look as natural as a cutting board would. Now we're attaching the spindle, and just like I had with the other board, I am going to put it in the center and then I'm going to attach it with my brad nailer. And this is where I realized that the stripe was not in the center completely because I eyed it up with that red stripe and I think it's off just a hair. But that's what happens when you do DIY projects. Sometimes things aren't absolutely perfect. For my sixth and final project, I had a bunch of scrap pieces left over. I wanted to use the entire piece of decoupage paper, so I went into my stash of wood, grabbed 3 scrap pieces, and for starters, we are painting the bases all white so we can make that decoupage paper really pop. On the first sign, I am using the excess from the very first project that we did today, and I am using the liquid patina to lay it down, and it's going to be a shelf sitter. For the other 2 signs, I am using the striped paper, and again, I'm using liquid patina to adhere all the paper. We're going to let it dry very thoroughly, remove any of the excess paper with the sandpaper like we had in our past projects, and then we are going to do our final steps. For this project or this sign, I decided to paint just the edges, the black velvet from DIY. I thought it just finished it off a little bit more. I'm going to seal that with Big Top. And then for the other 2 signs, I am using my favorite set of stamps from IOD called Typesetting. And on one of the signs, we're going to write out farm. And on the other sign, we are going to, well, basically not write out, but hand stamp out eggs. If you haven't used the stamps before, they do come with individual letters, so words that have 2 letters. How I do it is I just lay it all out and then leave a space for the missing letter, re-ink that, and then lay it down and then rub all over the stamp, and then there you have it, eggs. So what did you guys all think? I hope I have inspired many of you to try to do the same. Take one piece of decoupage paper and then try to transform as many items as you possibly can. I had a ton of fun doing it, and all those items are going to be going in my booth. I think it's great because it does have pops of red still for the holidays. Now, this week, I am going to be super busy. Widow's Weekend is this coming weekend, and I have a lot to do in all 3 of my booths. So Friday's video, not yet quite sure what you're gonna get, I might bring you along. I might give you a thrift flip. We will see. It is a surprise. So I will be live tonight on Facebook. I'm going to be transforming 2 chairs for my studio. I am going to try something a little different. I am going to try to decoupage on faux leather. We will see how that goes. So if you are interested in seeing it, go ahead, join me tonight on Facebook, 6 o'clock Central Time. Now, I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you guys Friday. Bye.